Arrays allows us to store maybe a little bit more integers, so more values than one. So instead of storing one integer like 4, then we can automatically store maybe like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 8, and so on. So we also get to look at two-dimensional arrays, so where we can store values in row and column. So this will now allow us to store multi-line or like arrays inside an array. So these are nested arrays. Those are the 2D arrays. So the way the architecture of an array looks like is you have to first use you use the square bracket. So the first thing you want to do is that's how you want to like declare your array. So that's an array, but it's missing something. It's missing a name, a variable name. So let's call this one arrays of numbers. And it's still also missing one thing, that is now the data type. So we can say int data type. So this is actually how an array is declared. So we can say declaring an array. So declaring an array. So this is how an array is declared. So then for you to add values inside here, you have to use the indexing. So indexing, we talked about it earlier on. So indexing, always remember, it starts with n and ends with n minus 1. So it starts with the first index, which is always 0, to always index number n minus 1. So if we have maybe like 10 values, so the index will actually be from 0 to 9. So because we have this now, we can now assign values. So to assign a value, you have to first like get in the index. So we can say numbers, so you have to use the variable name. Then from index 1, then you can now use the assignment operator here. So that's the equal sign. So we can assign it to maybe 20. Then we can also assign it to maybe, so let's say index number 3. So let's assign it a value of 15. So this is how you assign values in arrays. So the next thing is we can access these values. So we can print it out to our console. So see out numbers, and then we pass in the index. So let's say let's print the index in the element in index number 0. So if you run this, then okay, the size is unknown. So then we expect that actually 20 will be printed. So one thing we forgot is we want to specify the number of maybe like elements. So let's say we're going to store 10 elements. So sorry. So these are okay. Let's just finish this one first, and then numbers. Then we'll get to check on our fixed arrays. So once we run that, so you see here that storage size now isn't known. So by default, you have to actually indicate to the compiler the number of elements you want to store. So let's say you want to store like 5 elements. So if you now run this, we expect that now the output will be 20. So you have to actually like declare this. So this is how you declare. And then the next thing is you want to pass in here the size, actually the size of the array. So for that, we declare that we wanted 5 elements. So we can keep adding elements up to that all elements have like we have exhausted all elements. So the next thing is we could also like update values here. So let's say we've assigned it to 20, then I can re-update these values. So let's say numbers at index 0. Now I want it to have a value of 100. So you can now see out index 0. So we expect that 100 will now be printed. So we have updated this to maybe like 100. Now that was actually like the simple way of dealing with the arrays. So the next thing I want us to do is I want us to check at actually the number of like the 2D the number of elements in a 2D. So 2D actually allows us to assign values in row and column state or architecture. So I'm just going to delete this one. So the next thing I want us to do is we can directly also assign values. So we can say, so and then your values comes inside here. So for you to assign values, you have to use the opening and closing curly bracket. So we can say maybe integers of 2, 4, 6, 5. So let's just give it an order so that it can be easier. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if you now see out this, let's see what will actually happen. So numbers. So at index, so maybe like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's access at index 5. So let's see what will actually like happen. So we get 0. So by default, if actually you are out of range, out of index, so because our index ends at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it ends at index number 4, then by default, if you go to access an element out of range, then it will assign, it will give you a value of 0. So if you now print at index 4, we expect that 5 will be printed. So that's how you directly declare and assign values into an array. So let's see the 2D array. So this is its architecture. So let's say int. So we have maybe like coordinates. So maybe our coordinates are XYZ. So then we are going to say we are using this number of arrays. So this is how you declare a 2D array. So you have to pass in the values here. So let's say we have maybe, so the first value here is you pass in the rows, and then the second value is the number of elements. So number of elements, actually this is in column. So number of elements in the column section. So elements in the column. So once you've done this, then you can now like assign it. So this is how you declare. So we can also declare and assign directly. So with this one, then it actually takes in. So let me just use some tabs here. Let me just do some tabs. So this is actually like the parent array. So let's say this is the parent. Then also this, let's say again, the parent is here. So we have the parent array. So allow me to use this. Then we do now also have the children arrays. So we can say we can have here another array. So this is the child. So then add that. So let me just copy this again. Okay, so let me just put it, place it here. So then I'm gonna paste that one here. So remember that while you are declaring all this, you have to have the parent and also you have to have the child. So this means that these are actually the first one. So we have the external ones. So maybe let me just select this, copy it, then paste it here. So because we now have we have nested these arrays, so you have to separate them in actually commas. So this means that this is the external one. So this opening here, and then this one here is the main array. Then we have now these other nested arrays within this within the parent. So this is how the architecture of an array of a 2D-dimensional array looks like. So let's see these actually in action. So coordinates, I'm just going to delete that. So coordinates, let's say we have two rows, or let's have a 3 by 3 dimensional array. So 3, and then 3 inside here. Then we're going to say we have that value here, there. So let me just push this one a little bit here to that point. Then we're going to have values here. So let's say we now have values of 2. Let me just close this one. Then I'll open and close that one. Then I'll also open and close that one. Then I'm going to delete this one. So remember, this is the parent array. Then these are the children. So we can say now 2. Let's have even numbers. Then we can now have odd numbers. 3, 5. Then we can have maybe double-digit number. So 10, 20, and let's say 30. So this is how you work with a 2-dimensional array. So you have to remember that we have the parent array and then we have the children array. And all these children, because they're array, they have to be separated by also commas. So despite our element separation, then we have the array separation. So separate different parents. So we have 1, 2, and 3. That's 3 rows, and we have 3 elements in each. So for us to access this, then make sure you end with this full column. So for us to access this, we can say now cout, maybe now like coordinates. So, and it also takes in two square brackets. So that means the first one we want to access here is the row index. So the row index is, let's say we want to access 2. So the first row is 0, 1, 2. So the first index here of the row is 0. Then we want to access the first. Now we are on this, we are already focused on this one element, so because we are at index 0. So then remember again, indexing will always go as usual 0, 1, 2. So let's say we want to access the first element in this column, so we're going to pass in 0 here. So let's run this, then let's see the result. So we now have like element 2 has been printed. So let's say you want to access this 20 here. So we're going to say from the row that's 0, 1, 2. So the first thing is we are on index number 2, that's row number 2. So we are now here. So we have already eliminated these values. Then inside this, we want to access this number 20 here. So we start by the column index 0, 1, 2. So we're going to access place here 1. So once you place that, then you run your code. Then you now see that we have printed 20. So we are going to learn how we are going to iterate to and print all these elements using actually the conditional statements or the loops. So for now, we are just going to print a single element. So to finalize on this first chapter of the C++ programming, before we move into conditional statements, I'm going to give you a simple quiz here. So there's a game here. So I want you to write this game. So it takes in the type of a flower. Also, the user will have to enter in the country and also maybe like get the color from a user. So it's called mostly people refer to it as called the Mad Libs game, whereby according to maybe like your primary level, you would get maybe like my teacher maybe is done, and maybe like teachers the subject, so maybe like mathematics, and is the head of maybe like that, and class teacher. So the Madlib actually like takes this format, so it actually like takes in and fills all these small statements here. So like just the broken passage. So I want you to write that game, then I'll see you in the solution. So this is actually how the game behaves. So if I run this, then you should ask what's your favorite flower. So maybe I'll just say maybe like sunflower. Then what's the color? So I'll just say yellow. Then which country will you want it from? So maybe like I want it from the United Arab Emirates. So you now see that sunflowers are colorful, so it's already filled display with this variable entered here. Then the color is always yellow, so according to this, then which country would you like to be imported? So then I say like it's imported from United Arab Emirates overseas. So write that game, then I'll see you in the solution.